and welcome. This is Brand New Midland, the Forbidden Library, and today it is reading time. Hello, everyone. Hello, the Native Gamer. Hello, Nimby. Hello, Dolph Game. It has been a while. Welcome back. Hello, Noble Size Phantom. Hello, Rahel. Hello, Xnum. Welcome, everyone. Yes, you didn't miss the lo-fi this time. I didn't have to give you extra lo-fi. You've had your daily dose of lo-fi. I should put where I got that music in the Discord for you guys if you want to. Good morning and konnichiwa! Konnichiwa, minasan. Yokoso my stream? Question mark. My weeb's worth of Japanese there. But anyway, before we start, I have a couple of things that I read. One of these things I read, I think I read it like last week. I just forgot to update it. Hello, everyone. This is your daily dose of Brady Rose Smith. It is. And you should be coming to the channel to get your daily doses of Brenny Rose Smith when I'm not streaming. You should just watch a short or something if I'm not streaming, and that's how you get your daily doses when I'm not streaming. Just so you're aware. That's a PSA for you if you need your daily dose. Yes, time for another story. Not quite now is it time for another story. Now it's time for me to update my spreadsheet. So we got Carnival Volume 4, which is one, like I said, I think I read this a while ago. I just forgot to update it. I was looking at the books on my, like, red shelf, and I was like, did I put that one in? The thing? Wait a minute, I think I'm missing another one, actually. One second, let me just, She's Night. Okay, yeah, I did put She's My Night Volume 2 in. That's okay then, fine. Just needed to check that. Who read this one? I get my dose when you're not here by looking at my tea bags and weeping softly. Anya. Well, I'm glad your tea bags get attention. So this is a series 2025. I also read 155. I tried a new comic series. I don't think I'm going to continue this one. It was called The Last Boy. And it is a Peter Pan based series where, like, everyone's been growing up without him. Like, the Indian tribes moved on. Hook's gotten really old, and Pan's just the same as he is, but everything's leaving him behind. Pano Sign Alessio Avalone and Valentina Pinto. This was a series, but a series I am dropping. No, not series complete. Not series complete, just series, thank you. 2025. Ba-ba-da-ba! So that takes us to update my number 5, I believe. Yeah. 9,745 to go. We might even get another one on there today, because we're not terribly far off the end. We're 61% of the way through this book that we're reading at the moment. And there's no rule that says it has to be fiction books. Theoretically, I could class every story in here as a short story and add it to the list. But I feel like that would be cheating. So, we're going to a new tribe collection. And we're going to go The Origin. In the beginning, there lived one man and one woman, Toglai and Toglibon. Their first children were a boy and a girl. When they were old enough, the boy and the girl went far away across the waters, seeking a good place to live in. Nothing more was heard of them until their children, the Spaniards and Americans, came back. Hello, Bitsy, welcome. My weekend's been nice, been chill. I've been playing a lot of 100 Line Last Defense Academy, and it's great. After the first boy and girl left, other children were born to the couple, but they all remained at Cibolan at Mount Apo with their parents until Toglai and Toglibon died and became spirits. So they went far away, and the boy and girl eventually gave birth to the Spaniards and the Americans. Very strange. I haven't heard many origin myths that take into account other countries like this, which is fun. Yes, poor souls. I'm glad you got here at the start as well, Pizza. Welcome. But they all remained at Sitlaban on Mount Apo with their parents until Togalai and Toglibon died and became spirits. Soon after, there came a great drought which lasted for 3 years. All the waters dried up, and so there was no rivers, and no plants could live. Surely, said the people, Manama is punishing us, and we must go elsewhere to find food and a place to dwell in. So they started out. 2 went in the direction of the sunset, carrying with them stones from the Sitlaban River. After a long journey, they reached a place where broad fields of Kagon grass and an abundance of water, and they made their home. Their children still live in that place and are called Maguindanao. Now. Oh, it's that U on the end. It's tricky. A lot of creation myths do make us a product of incest. Yeah, it happens a lot. Their children still live in the because of the stones which the couple carried when they left Sitbolan. 2 children of Tongalai and Tonglibon went to the south, seeking a home, and they carried with them women's baskets, baran. When they found a good spot, they settled down. Their descendants still dwelling in that place are called baran or bilan because of the women's baskets. So, 2 by 2, the children of the first couple left the land of their birth. In the place where each settled, a new people developed. And thus it came about that all the tribes in the world received their names from the things the people carried out of Sitbalan, or from the places where they settled. "'Tis true, everyone's related. You got no choice." All the children left Mount Apo to save 2, a boy and a girl, whom hunger and thirst had made too weak to travel. One day, when they were about to die, the boy crawled out to the field to see if there was one living thing, and to his surprise, he found a stalk of sugarcane growing lustily. He eagerly cut it, and enough water came out to refresh him and his sister until the rains came. Because of this, their children are called Bagabo. That's fun. Again, it's always creation myths always make us we're all related, guys. Everyone's family. But, like I said, I think it's very interesting to have a story that takes into account other countries and so many other settlements and how everyone got split up. I think that's cool. I wonder what they named Italy after. Probably Swordstamps and lads have got an idea. Yeah, I am a long lost sibling. I am your British sibling, whether you like it or not. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I'm your problem now. Lumabet. Soon after people were created on the earth, there was born a child named Lumabet, who lived to be a very, very old man. He could talk when he was but 1 day old, and all his life he did wonderful things until people came to believe that he had been sent by Manamba, the Great Spirit. I'm doing my best. Since we're all related, we invited to the wedding. No, you're not invited to the wedding! You know, if you are drunk enough to mix up letters in bang, oh boo, you get Gab-a-goo, which is an old name for Italians. Oh, that's cool. Everyone has a piece of my estate when we pass. Yay! We're inheriting things! I'm giving each person on Earth 1 DVD from my collection. Oh, have I seen some big DVD collections. I used to work at a place where people would sort of trade in their stuff for money, like electronics and things like that. And the piles of DVDs people come in with. We had this family come in, and they were making extra trips. They all had like big boxes, and then would come in with more. They get like a penny for each of these DVDs, but for some reason, this poor guy next to me at the till spent 5 hours scanning in their DVD collection. So I assume it's something like that. That was you closed down all the stuff. Terrible. Give Phantom the car. Phantom will probably need another car, given how Phantom says they drive. I get the house? Heck yeah! Wonderful. When Lumabet was still a young man, he had a fine dog, and he enjoyed nothing so much as taking him to the mountains to hunt. One day the dog noticed a white deer. Lumabet and his companions started in pursuit, but the deer was very swift, and they could not catch it. On and on they went until they had gone around the world, and still the deer was ahead. One by one his companions dropped out of the chase, but Lumabet would not give up until he had the deer. All the time he had but 1 banana and 1 camote, a sweet potato, for food. But each night he planted the skins of these, and in the morning he found a banana tree with ripe fruit and a sweet potato large enough to eat. So he kept on till he had been around the world 9 times, and he was an old man, and his hair was grey. At last he caught the deer, and then he called all the people to a great feast to see the animal. While all were making merry, Lumabet told them to take a knife and kill his father. Oh wait, what? Hello, sweetie, welcome. They were greatly surprised, but did as he commanded, and when the old man was dead, Lumabet waved his headband over him, and he came to life again. 8 times they killed the old man at Lumabet's command, and the 8th time he was small, like a little boy. For each time they had cut off some of his flesh, they all wondered very much at Lumabet's power, and they were certain he was a god. I think I missed that part too. I love folk tales that make 0 sense. Because they were made up from someone's head round a campfire, so they have little to no sense of narrative structure, and it's wonderful. One morning, some spirits came to talk with Lumabet, and we're not going to address the fact that he seemingly murdered his father 8 or 9 times last night. and after they had gone, he called the people to come to his house. "We cannot all come in," said the people, "for your house is small and we are many." "There is plenty of room," said he, so all went in, and to their surprise it did not seem crowded, for he lived in a TARDIS. Then he told the people that he was going on a long journey, and that all who believed he had great power could go with him, while all who remained behind would be changed into animals and and yeah, what's a busso? Evil spirits who have power to injure people. They are ugly to look at and go about eating anything, even dead people. Ooh. Pretend they're zombies. 'Cause he was resurrecting them too. That's what happened. He was murder and res, murder, res, murder, res, you know. Typical stuff, obviously. Technically, all stories are made up from someone's head around a campfire. Just the PC is the campfire now. True. I know, 8 times is a lot, isn't it? Of course he didn't. His son has godlike power! And apparently everyone listens to him now. He led the people far away, across the ocean, to a place where the earth and the sky meet. When they arrived, they saw that the sky moved up and down, like a man opening and closing its doors. "Sky, you must go up," commanded Lumabet. But the sky would not obey, so the people could not go through. Finally, Lumabet promised the sky that if he would let all the others through, he might have the last man who tried to pass. Agreeing to this, the sky opened, and the people entered. But when near the last, the sky shut down so suddenly that he caught not only the last man, but also the long knife of the man before. So the sky ate someone as they passed? Question mark? On the same day, Lumabet's son, who was hunting, did not know that his father had gone to the sky. When he was tired of the chase, he wanted to go to his father, so he leaned an arrow against a baliti tree and sat down on it. Slowly it began to go down and carried him to his father's place. What? These got, like, particularly crazy. The wide carnivorous sky. That's terrifying. He looked here and there and could not find could find nothing but a gun made of gold. This made him very sorrowful, and he did not know what to do until some white bees, which were in the house, said to him, "You must not weep, for we can take you to the sky where your father is." There is some reference. There's evidently an old tale in which the storyteller introduces modern ideas. Oh, okay, so the gun made of gold was not something in the original tale. So he did as they bade and rode on the gun. Flying guns! As the bees flew. It must be a long gun. I mean, probably a musket or something. So we're flying on a musket like it's a witch's brew. I suppose we did have flying on axes in the other story, so this makes... Flying weapons seems to be a thing. Unless the original tale teller had the gift of Apollo, maybe. Flew away with him until in 3 days they reached the sky. Now, although most of the men followed Lumabet were content to live in the sky, there was one who was very unhappy, and all the time he kept looking down on the land below. The spirits made fun of him and wanted to take out his intestines so that he would be like them and never die. What? The spirits made fun of him, this guy who didn't want to be in the sky, and wanted to take out his intestines so that he would be like them and never die. but he was afraid and always begged to be allowed to go back home. Finally, Manama told the spirits to allow him to go, so they made a chain of leaves of the Koran grass and tied it to his legs, then let him down slowly, head first, and when he reached the ground he was no longer a man, but an owl. Now that was definitely one of the most nonsensical ones we've had so far. Let's see if we can summarize that. So, it starts with a man who chases a deer around the world 9 times, eventually catches it, has a party because he caught it, murders his father 8 times and resurrects him each time, then invites everyone into his TARDIS house, where he says, if you believe in me as a god, then you can come with me to live in the sky. So he takes some of them to live in the sky, but the sky eats a couple of the people who didn't quite make it through. Then his son finds out that he's gone and makes a journey to go find him, flying on a magic gun, makes it to the sky. But there's one guy in the sky who doesn't like being there, but when he goes back down, he turns into an owl. Still an easier plot than Tenet. Tenet wasn't that bad. So that's the best summary I got for you. That was interesting. Another story of creation, but a slightly different one. Hello, Boris, welcome. In the very beginning, there lived a being so large that he cannot be compared with any known thing. His name was Melu. And when he sat on the clouds, which were his home, he occupied all the space above. His teeth were pure gold, and because he was very cleanly and continually rubbed himself with his hands, his skin became pure white. The dead skin, which he rubbed off his body, was placed on one side of a pile, and by this pile became so large that he was annoyed and set himself to consider what to do with it. Finally, Melu decided to make the earth. Strange. So he worked very hard, putting the dead skin into shape, and when it was finished, he was so pleased with it that he determined to make 2 beings like himself, though smaller, to live on it. As you do, exactly. Haven't you, clipped your toenails and thought about making a planet out of it? I don't know. Just me. Taking the remnants of the material left after making the earth, he fashioned 2 men, but just as they were all finished except their noses, Tautana from below the earth appeared and wanted to help him. Melu did not wish any assistance, and a great argument ensued. Tautana finally won his point and made the noses which he placed on the people upside down. When all was finished, Melu and Tautana whipped the forms until they moved. Then Melu went to his home above the clouds, and Tautana returned to his place below the earth. Yep, just make a planet out of all your laundry. It's fine. It's not a doom pile. It's a planet that hasn't been born yet. All went well until one day a great rain came, and the people on the earth nearly drowned from the water which ran off their heads into their noses. Melu, from his place on the clouds, saw their danger, and he came quickly to the earth and saved their lives by turning their noses the other side up. Oh our nostrils used to point upwards, not down. The people were very grateful to him and promised to do anything he should ask of them before he left for the sky. They told him that they were very unhappy living on the great earth alone, so he told them to save all the hair from their heads and the dry skin from their bodies, and the next time he came he would make them some companions. And in this way there came to be a great many people on earth. These unwashed dishes was my plan all along this plate. It's gonna be a city one day. Exactly! We all came from a god's dead skin. These are very interesting origin stories. Yes, if you save all the hair on your head and your dead skin, you could craft a waifu. In the beginning, there were 4 beings, and they lived on an island no larger than a hat. On this island, there were no trees or grass or any other living thing besides these 4 people and 1 bird. One day, they sent this bird out across the waters to see what he could find, and when he returned, he brought some earth, a piece of rattan, and some fruit. Melu, the greatest of the 4, took the soil and shaped it, and beat it with a paddle, in the same manner in which a woman shapes pots of clay, and when he finished, he had made the earth. Then he planted the seed from the fruit, and they grew until there was much rattan and many trees bearing fruit. The 4 beings watched the growth for a long time, and were well pleased with the work, but finally Melu said, "Of what use is this earth and all the rattan and fruit if there are no people?" And the others replied, "Let us make some people out of wax." So they took some wax and worked long, fashioning it into forms. But when they brought them to the fire, the wax melted, and they saw that men could not be made that way. Next, they decided to try to use dirt in making people, and Melu and one of his companions began working on that. All went well till they tried to make the noses. Apparently we had some issue with noses. The companion who was working on that part put them on upside down. Melu told him that the people would drown if he had left them that way, but he refused to change them. When his back was turned, however, Melu seized the noses one by one and turned them as they are now. But he was in such a hurry that he pressed his fingers at the root and left a mark in the soft clay which you can see on the faces of people. That's how your nose was made. God squished your face, and that's how you got a nose that you do. Of what use is this earth and all this rattan if there are no Vtubers? Vtubers later. Same. I shed so much hair. But the hair balls on my hairbrushes could have made a universe by now. Now, more. The children of Limocon. In the very early days, before there were any on the earth, the Limocon, a kind of dove, were very powerful and could talk like men, though they looked like birds. One Limocon laid 2 eggs, one at the mouth of the Mayo River, and one farther up its course. After some time, these eggs hatched, and the one at the mouth of the river became a man, while the other became a woman. The man lived alone on the bank of the river for a long time, but he was very lonely and wished many times for a companion. One day, when he was crossing the river, something was swept against his leg with such force that it nearly caused him to drown. On examining it, he found that it was hair. He determined to go up a river and find whence it came. He travelled up the stream, looking on both banks, until finally he found the woman, and he was very happy to think that at last he could have a companion. They were married and had many children, who are the Mandaya, still living among the Maya River. Da-da-da! Mustard! No, it's the mayo! No mustard. Whoops. The sun and the moon. So last time we've had any stories of the sun and the moon, it's because the first story of the sun and the moon we had, they were having a pissing contest, and the sun got extra pissy and threw sand in the moon's face, and that is why there's dots on it. Not because of craters, because of the sand. And then the other one, the moon was shaping a pot, and the sun's son was watching, and then she beheaded the sun's son, and then brought him back to life eventually, but then the sun was pissed and hurt the moon again. So let's see if this one happens. That's why the sun is yellow, because it's a sandy bitch. The sun and the moon were married, but the sun was very ugly and quarrelsome. One day he became angry at the moon and started to chase her. She ran very fast until she was some distance ahead of him, when she grew tired and he almost caught her. Ever since he has been chasing her, at times almost reaching her and again falling far behind. The first child of the sun and moon was a large star, and he was like a man. He was like a man, not quite a man, but like a man. One time the sun became angry at the star, cut him into small pieces and scattered him all over the whole sky, just as a woman scatters rice. Ever since, there have been many stars, so the sun has anger issues. Another child of the sun and the moon was a gigantic crab. He still lives, and is so powerful that every time he opens and closes his eyes, there is a flash of lightning. Most of the time, the crab lives in a large hole at the bottom of the sea, and when he is there, we have a high tide. But when he leaves the hole, the water rushes in, and there is low tide. His moving about also causes great waves on the surface of the sea. I like that reason for tides. That's a fun excuse for tides. The sun is like, I'm not aggressive, I'm working on it. The sun needs better anger management classes. This is terrible. Imagine chasing someone for millennia and give up and eat something. The sun's angry. Just eat a Snickers, son. You're just hungry. I guess when you're a god, all you have is time, so spending 1,000 years on something pointless isn't a big deal. Probably. The crab is quarrelsome, like his father, and he sometimes becomes so angry with his mother, the moon. What did the moon ever do? That he tries to swallow her. When the people on the earth who are fond of the moon see the crab near her, they run outdoors and shout and beat on gongs until he is frightened away, and thus the moon is saved. Yay! Bro humanity! What did the poor moon? The moon is an abuse victim who has one child who got murdered by the father and one child who's been brainwashed by the father. The moon is suffering. Moon's like, bro, I'm just chill. I just exist. Ah. But what happened to the widow's son? In a little house at the edge of a village lived a widow with her only son, and they were very happy together. The son was kind to his mother, and they made their living by growing rice in clearings on the mountainside and by hunting wild pig in the forest. One day, when their supply of meat was low, the boy said, "Mother, I'm going to hunt pig in the morning, and I wish you would prepare rice for me before daylight." So the widow rose early and cooked rice, and at dawn the boy started out with his spear and dog. Some distance from the village, he entered the thick forest. He walked on and on, ever on the lookout for game, but none appeared. At last, when he had travelled far and the sun was hot, he sat down on a rock to rest and took out his brass box to get a piece of betel nut. He prepared the nut and leaf for chewing, and as he did so, he wondered why it was that he had been so unsuccessful today. But even as he pondered, he heard his dog barking sharply, and cramming the betel nut into his mouth, he leapt up and ran toward the dog. As he drew near, he could see that the game was a fine, large pig, all black save its 4 legs, which were white. He lifted his spear and took aim, but before he could throw, the pig started to run, and instead of going toward a water source, it ran straight up the mountain. The boy went on in hot pursuit, and when the pig paused, he again took aim, but before he could throw, it ran on. 6 times the pig stopped just long enough for the boy to take aim, and then started on before he could throw. The 7th time, however, it halted on the top of a large flat rock, and the boy succeeded in killing it. He tied its legs together with a piece of rattan, and was about to start for home with the pig on his back, when, to his surprise, a door in a large stone swung open and a man stepped out. "Why have you killed my master's pig?" asked the man. "I did not know this pig belonged to anyone," replied the widow's son. "I was hunting, as I often do, and when my dog found the pig, I helped him to catch it." "Come in and see my master," said the man, and the boy followed him into the stone, where he found himself in a large room. The ceiling and floor were covered with peculiar cloth that had been 7 wide stripes of red alternating with like of yellow stripes. When the master of the place appeared, his trousers were of 7 colours, as were also his jacket and his kerchief around his head. What does that mean? Not interesting. I thought it might have some significance. The master ordered betel nut, and when it was brought, they chewed together. And then he called for wine, and it was brought in a jar so large that it had to be set on the ground under the house. And even then the top came so high above the floor that they brought a seat for the widow's son, and it raised him just high enough to drink from the reed in the top of the jar. He drank 7 cups of wine, and then they ate rice and fish and talked together. The master did not blame the boy for killing the pig, and declared that he wished to make a brother of him. So they became friends, and the boy remained 7 days in the stone. At the end of that time, he said he must return to his mother, who would be worried about him. In the early morning, he left the strange house and started for home. At first he walked briskly, but as the morning wore on, he went more slowly, and finally, when the sun was high, he sat down on a rock to rest. Suddenly, looking up, he saw before him 7 men, each armed with a spear, a shield, and a sword. They were dressed in different colours, and each man had eyes the same colour as his clothes. We found the Power Rangers. The leader, who was dressed in all red, with red eyes to match, spoke first, asking the boy where he was going. The boy replied he was going home to his mother, who would be looking for him, and added, "Now I ask where you are going, all armed, ready for war." "We are warriors," replied the man in red, because he's the Red Ranger, because he's the leader. "And we go up and down the world, killing whatever we see that has life. Now that we have met you, we must also kill you." Bad Power Rangers, nasty Power Rangers. Go, loser Ranger Power Rangers. The boy, startled by this strange speech, was about to answer when he heard a voice next to him. "Fight, for they will try to kill you." And upon looking up, he saw his spear, shield, and sword, which he had left at home. And then he knew that the command came from a spirit, so he took his weapons and began to fight. For 3 days and nights they contended, and never before had the 7 seen one man so brave. On the 4th day the leader was wounded and fell dead, and then one by one the other 6 fell. Power Rangers defeated. When they were all killed, the widow's son was so crazed with fighting that he thought no longer of returning home, but started to find more to slay. Oh no. They are, in fact, just serial killers. Color-coded serial killers. In his wanderings, he came to the home of a great giant whose house was already full of men he had conquered in battle, and he called from outside, "Is the master of the house at home? If he is, let him come out and fight." Oh, a net maker. And someone bringing water from the stream. This threw the giant into a rage, and seizing his shield and his spear, the shaft of which was the trunk of a tree, he sprang to the door and leapt to the ground, not waiting to go down the notched pole, which served for steps. He looked around for his antagonist, and only seeing the widow's son, he roared, "Where is the man that wants to fight? That thing? It is only a fly!" The boy did not stop to answer, but rushed at the giant with his knife, and for 3 days and nights they struggled, till the giant fell, wounded at the waist. After that, the widow's son stopped only long enough to burn the giant's house, and then rushed on looking for someone else to slay. Suddenly he again heard the voice which had bade him fight with the 7 men, and this time it said, "Go home now, for your mother is grieved at your absence." In a rage he sprang forward with his sword, though he could see no enemy. Then the spirit which had spoken to him made him sleep for a short time. When he awoke, the rage was spent. Again the spirit appeared, then it said, "The 7 men whom you killed were sent to kill you by the spirit of the great stone, for he looked in your hand and saw you were to marry the orphan girl who he himself wished to wed. But you have conquered, your enemies are dead. Go home now, and prepare a great quantity of wine, for I shall bring your enemies to life again, and you will all live in peace." The spirit said, "Eat a Snickers. Go for a nap. Just go have a nap. Have a nap, widow's son. You need it." And so the widow's son went home, and his mother, who had believed him dead, was filled with joy at his coming, and all the people of the town came to welcome him. When he had told them his story, they hastened to get wine, and all day they bore jars full to the widow's house. That night there was a great feast, and the spirit of the great stone, his 7 warriors, the friendly spirit, and the giant all came. The widow's son married the orphan girl, while another beautiful woman became the wife of the spirit of stone. We're all good about all that murder, right? Yeah, we're all good. It's fine. We got wine now. And now he has a different waifu, so it's fine now. That one was one of the more coherent stories, to be fair. Actually understand that one, and it had a good beginning, middle, and end. We had some narrative structure. What's a little murder between friends? Exactly. So this is the tribe we mainly read a lot of those stories about, or like some of them. It says there's maybe 3 tribes here. So this is some of their more traditional dress and things. Very interesting. Indeed, big yawn. We're on to the morrow. I'm just going to have a flick forward and see how much. No noses on that one. No, we're past the noses. I just want to have a quick look, like how much we got. And then we're on to the Christianized stuff. There we go. Yeah. So we're on 69%. Nice. Morrow introduction. About the year 1400, something happened which changed the beliefs and customs of many of the tribes of the southern Philippines and made them a powerful and dreaded people. It was about this time that Arabian traders and missionaries began to establish themselves in the islands, and soon these were followed by hordes of Mohammedan converts from the islands to the south. Among the newcomers were men who became powerful rulers, and they, in time, brought together many of the settlements which formerly had been hostile to each other and united them under the faith of Islam. Those who accepted the new faith adopted the dress and many of the customs of their teaching and became known as Moro. With the possession of firearms which were introduced by the newcomers, the Moro grew very daring and were greatly feared by the other natives. And soon they began to make long trips on the sea to the north and south, carrying on trade and making many surprise attacks for loot and slaves. At the time the Spaniards discovered the Philippines, the Moro were a terror to the other inhabitants, and they continued to be so until very recent years. And by recent we mean this book is still very old. So I don't know what the current situation on them would be. They became ferocious pirates infesting the southern seas and preying upon the rich trade which the Spaniards carried on with Mexico. Stone walls and watchtowers were built at advantageous points to guard against them, but bays and creeks, which afforded opportunities for lurking, surprise, and attack, continued to be frequented by the treacherous warriors. Since American occupation, the waters have been made practically free from their ravages, but on land they have continued to give trouble. The greater part of the Moro now live in the Sulu archipelago and on the island of Mindanao. They range in degree of civilization from the sea, quote-unquote, gypsies who wander from place to place, living for months in their I think when she says rude, I think she wants to say rudimentary outrigger boats to settled communities which live by fishing and farming, and even by manufacturing some cloth, brass, steel. Their villages are near the coast, along rivers, or about the shores of the interior lakes. The houses being raised high on poles near or over water, for they live largely on food from the sea. Their folklore, as will be seen from the following tales, shows decided influence from Arabia and India, which has filtered through the islands to the south. Oh, so this would be fun. We're going to get in some mixed culture stuff. Mythology of Mindanao. A long, long time ago, Mindanao was covered with water, and the sea extended over all the lowlands so that nothing could be seen but mountains. Then there were many people living in the country, and all the highlands were dotted with villages and settlements. For many years the people prospered, living in peace and contentment. Suddenly there appeared in the land 4 horrible monsters, which in a short time had devoured every human being they could find. The Kurata, a terrible creature, Kurita, a terrible creature with many limbs, lived partly on land and partly in the sea. But its favourite haunt was the mountain where the rattan grew, and here it brought utter destruction on every living thing. The second monster, Tarabusaw, an ugly creature in the form of a man, lived on Mount Matutan. And far and wide from that place he devoured the people, laying waste to the land. The third, an enormous bird called Pa, was so large that when on the wing it covered the sun and brought darkness to the earth. Its egg was as large as a house. Mount Bitter was its haunt, and there the people who escaped its ferocity were those who hid in caves in the mountains. The fourth monster was a dreadful bird also, having 7 heads and the power to see in all directions at the same time. Mount Gairan was its home, and like others, it wrought havoc in its region. So was the great death and destruction caused by these terrible animals. And at length the news spread even to the most distant lands, and all nations were grieved to hear of the sad fate of Mindanao. Now far across the sea, in the land of the golden sunset, was a city so great that to look at it many people would injure the eyes of man. When tidings of these great disasters reached this city, the heart of the king in Darapatra was filled with compassion, and he called his brother Suleiman, begging him to save the land of Mindanao from the monsters. Suleiman listened to the story, and as he heard, he was moved with pity. "I will go," he said he, zeal and enthusiasm adding to his strength, "and the land shall be avenged." Not the people, though, just the land. King Indarapatra, proud of his brother's courage, gave him a ring and a sword as he wished him success and safety. Then he placed a young sapling by his window and said to Suleiman, "By this tree I shall know your fate from the time you depart from here, for if you live it will live, but if you die it will die also." So Suleiman departed for Mindanao, and he neither walked nor used a boat, but he went through the air and landed, so he can just fly. Bro can just fly. And landed on the mountain where the rattan grew. There he stood on the summit and gazed about on all sides. He looked on the land and the villages, but he could see no living thing, and he was very sorrowful and cried out, "Alas, how pitiful and dreadful is this devastation!" No sooner had Suleiman uttered these words than the whole mountain began to move and then shook Suddenly, out of the ground came the horrible creature, Kurita. It sprang at the man and sank its claws into his flesh, but Suleiman, knowing at once that this was the scourge of the land, drew his sword and cut Kurita to pieces. Encouraged by his first success, Suleiman went to Mount Matutan, where conditions were even worse. As he stood on the heights viewing the great devastation, there was a noise in the forest and a movement in the trees. With a loud yell, forth leapt Tarabasaur. For a moment they looked at each other, neither showing fear. Then Tarabasaur threatened to devour the man, and Suleiman declared he would kill the monster. At that, the animal broke large branches off the trees and began striking at Suleiman, who, in turn, fought back. For a long time the battle continued, until at last the monster fell, exhausted, to the ground, and Suleiman killed him with his sword. The next place visited by Suleiman was Mount Bitter. Here havoc was present everywhere, and though he passed by many homes, not a single soul was left. As he walked along, growing sadder at each moment, a sudden darkness which startled him fell over the land. As he looked towards the sky, he beheld a great bird descending upon him. Immediately he struck at it, cutting off its wing with his sword, and the bird fell dead to his feet. But the wing fell on Suleiman, and he was crushed. Now at this very time, King Indarapatra was sitting at his window, and looking out, he saw the little tree wither and die. "Alas!" he cried, "my brother is dead!" And he wept bitterly. Then, although he was very sad, he was filled with a desire for revenge, and putting on his sword and belt, he started for Mindanao in search of his brother. He too travelled through the air with great speed until he came to the mountain where the rattan grew. There he looked about, awed at the destruction, and when he saw the bones of Kurita, he knew that his brother had been there and gone. He went on till he came to Matutan, where he saw the bones of Tarabasaur. He knew this too was the work of Suleiman. Still searching for his brother, he arrived at Mount Beta, where the dead bird lay on the ground. And as he lifted the severed wing, he beheld the bones of Suleiman, with his sword by his side. His grief now so overwhelmed Indarapatra that he wept for some time. Upon looking up, he beheld a small jar of water by his side. This he knew had been sent from heaven, and he poured the water over the bones, and Suleiman came to life again. They greeted each other and talked long together. Suleiman declared that he had not been dead but asleep, and their hearts were full of joy. It's fine, everyone, it's fine. After some time, Suleiman returned to his distant home, but Indapatra continued his journey to Mount Gurion, where he killed the dreadful bird with the 7 heads. After these monsters had all been destroyed, the peace and safety had been restored to the land. Indarapatra began searching everywhere to see if some of the people might not be hidden in the earth still alive. One day, during his search, he caught sight of a beautiful woman in the distance. When he hastened towards her, she disappeared through a hole in the ground, where she was standing, disappointed and tired. "Hello, Lokoguma!" Yeah, setting up for streaming is tricky. Disappointed and tired, he sat down on a rock to rest. When looking about, he saw, near him, a pot of uncooked rice, with a big fire on the ground in front of it. This revived him, and he proceeded to cook the rice. As he did so, however, he heard someone laugh nearby, and turned he beheld an old woman watching him. As he greeted her, she drew near and talked with him while he ate the rice. Of all the people in the land, the old woman told him, only a very few were still alive, and they hid in a cave in the ground, from whence they never ventured. As for herself and her old husband, she went on, they had hidden in a hollow tree, and this they had never dared to leave until Suleiman killed the voracious bird Pa. At Indarapatra's earnest request, the old woman led him to the cave, where he found the head man with his family and some of his people. They all gathered about the stranger, asking many questions, for this was the first they had heard about the death of the monsters. When they found out what Indapatra had done for them, they were filled with gratitude, and to show their appreciation, the head man gave his daughter to him in marriage, and she proved to be the beautiful girl whom Indapatra had seen at the mouth of the cave. Then the people all came out of their hiding place and returned to their homes, where they lived in peace and happiness, and the sea withdrew from the land and gave the lowlands to the people, for seemingly no reason. That one was good. That was a chunkier story. We've had a lot of smaller ones, so it was kind of fun to get a chunkier story. Like, a good few chapters there. And narratively consistent and good structure. Because I think we're getting a bit further along. Like, these are less... Still coming from campfire stories, but will have been written down at this point a couple times, will have been refined a little bit. You never have to apologize for giving your cat cuddles, because it is a high priority. But very interesting. It's getting more coherent, and I don't know a lot about Islamic mythology, so I don't know what the influences are with this, so if anyone knows about that stuff and wants to point it out, by all means. But, until then, continue! The story of a band... Some of the names, I'll admit, definitely sounded a bit more Islamic. That's the only influence I can see. Anyway, the story of Bantugan. I'm gonna change this to Scottish. Before the Spaniards occupied the island of Mindanao, there lived in the valley of the Rio Grande I can assume it wasn't called the Valley of the Rio Grande before the Spaniards came along. There lived in the valley of Rio Grande a very strong man, Bantagan, whose father was the brother of the earthquake and thunder. He is a god-nephew. Now, the Sultan of the island had a beautiful daughter whom Bantagan wished to marry, but the home of the Sultan was far off, and whoever went to carry Bantagan's proposal would have a long and hazardous journey. All the head men consulted together regarding who should be sent, and at last it was decided that Bantagan's old son, Balatama, was the one to go. Balatama was young, but he was strong and brave, and when the arms of his father were given him to wear on the long journey, his heart swelled with pride. More than once on the way However, his courage was tried, and only the thought of his brave father gave him strength to proceed. His father was the brother of Nintendo and Sony, indeed. God nephew implies god brothers and sisters, and yay! Thank you for the follow, Yasun! Appreciate it. God uncles and god aunties. Well, yeah, god families are. I'm very into the Percy Jackson series, so god family business is definitely something I like reading about. Where was I up to? I lost it. Yeah. Once he came to a wooden fence which surrounded a stone in the form of a man, and it was directly in his path. He drew his knife to cut down the fence. Immediately the air became as black as night, and stones rained down as large as houses. This made Balatama cry, and he protected himself with his father's shield and prayed, calling on the winds from the homeland until they came and cleared the air again. Thereupon Balatama encountered a great snake in the road and it inquired his errand. When told, the snake said, "You cannot go on, for I am god of this road, and no one can pass." 'Cause he's a snake. The animal made a move to seize him, but with one stroke of his fighting knife, the boy cut the snake into 2 pieces, one of which he threw into the sea, and the other into the mountains. After days, the weary lad came to a high rock in the road, which glistened in the sunlight. From the top he could look down into the city for which he was bound. It was a splendid place with 10 harbours. Standing out from the other houses was one of crystal and another of pure gold. Encouraged by the sight, he went on, but though it seemed but a short distance, it was some time before he at last stood at the gate of the town. It was not long after this, however, before Balatama made known his errand to the Sultan, and that monarch, turning to his courtiers, said, "You, my friends, decide whether or not I shall give the hand of my daughter to Bantagan in marriage." The courtiers slowly shook their heads and began to offer objections. Said one, "I do not see how Bantagan can marry the Sultan's daughter, because the first gift must be a figure of a man or woman in pure gold." "Well," said the son of Bantagan, "I am here to learn what you want, and to say whether or not it can be given." The second man spoke, "You must give a great yard with a floor of gold, which must be 3 feet thick." Damn. Not asking for much, eh? "All this can be given," answered the boy. And the sister of the princess said, "The gifts must be as many as the blades of grass in our city." "It shall be granted," said Balatama. "You must give a bridge built of stone to cross the great river," said one. And another, "A ship of stone you must give, and you must change into gold all the coconuts and leaves in the Sultan's grove." "All this can be done," said Balatama. "My uncles will give all save the gold statue of gold, and that I shall give myself. But first I must go to my father's town and secure it." They want everything. At this they were angry and declared that he had made sport of them, and unless he produced the statue at once, they would kill him. "If I give you the statue now," said he, "there will come dreadful storms, rain, and darkness." But they only laughed at him, and insisted on having the statue, so he reached in his helmet and drew it forth. Immediately the earth began to quake. A great storm arose, and stones as large as houses rained, until the Sultan called to Balatama to put back the statue, lest they all be killed. "You would not believe what I told you," said the boy, "and now I am going to let the storm continue." Ah, what a petty king! We love it. But the Sultan begged him and promised that Bantagan might marry his daughter with no other gifts, and at all save the statue of gold. Balatama put the statue into his helmet, and the air became calm again, to the great relief of the Sultan and his courtiers. Then Balatama prepared to return home, promising that Bantagan would come in 3 months for the wedding. All went well with the boy on the way home until he came to the fence surrounding the stone, in the form of a man, and there he was detained and compelled to remain 4 months. Now, about this time, a Spanish general heard that Bantagan was preparing to marry the Sultan's daughter, whom he determined to wed himself. A great expedition was prepared, and he with all his brothers embarked on his large warship, which was followed by 10,000 other ships, and they went to the Sultan's city, and their number was so great that they filled the harbour, frightening the people greatly. Then the general's brother disembarked and came to the house of the Sultan. He demanded the princess for the general, saying that if the request were refused, the fleet would destroy the city and all its people. I know he's supposed to sound like the villain, but that's basically what just happened. The Sultan and his courtiers were so frightened that they decided to give his daughter to the general, the next full moon being the set date for the wedding. In the meantime, Bantagan had been preparing everything for the marriage, which he expected to take place at the appointed time. But as the days went by, and Balatama did not return, they became alarmed, fearing he was dead. After 3 months had passed, Bantagan prepared a great expedition to go in search of his son, and the great warship was decorated with flags of gold. As they came in sight of the Sultan's city, they saw the Spanish fleet in the harbour, and one of his brothers advised Bantagan not to enter until the Spaniards left. They then brought their ship to anchor, but all were disappointed that they could not go farther. And one said, "Why do we not go on? Even if the blades of grass turn into Spaniards, we need not fear," said another. "Why do we fear? Even if the cannonballs come like rain, we can always fight." Finally, some wanted to return to their homes, and Bantagan said, "No, let us seek my son. Even though we must enter the harbour where the Spaniards are, let us continue our search." So, at his command, anchors were lifted, and they sailed into the harbour where the Spaniards' fleet lay. Now, at this very time, the Spanish general and his brother were with the Sultan, intending to call upon the princess. As the brother talked with one of the sisters of the princess, they moved towards the window, and looking down they saw Bantagan's ship entering the harbour. They could not tell whose flags the ship bore, neither could the Sultan, when he was called. Then he sent his brother to bring his father, who was a very old man, to see if he could tell. The father was kept in a little dark room by himself, that he might not get hurt, and the Sultan said to his brother, "If he is so bent with age that he cannot see, talk, or walk, tickle him in the ribs, and that will make him young again. And my brother, carry him here. yourself, lest one of the slaves should let him fall, and he should hurt himself. So the old man was brought, and when he looked out upon the ships, he saw the flags were those of the father of Bantagan, who had been a great friend of his in his youth. The youth serum of tickling in the chest. I don't know if I'd rather just die, though, because tickling is awful. Hi, maiden. And he told them that he and Bantagan's father, years ago, had made a contract that their children and children's children should intermarry, and now, since the Sultan had promised his daughter to two people, he foresaw that great trouble would come to the land. Then the Sultan said to the general, "Here are 2 claimants to my daughter's hand. Go aboard your ships, and you and Bantagan make war on each other, and the victor shall have my daughter." You have some exciting news? Oh, I look forward to it. So the Spaniards opened fire on Bantagan, and for 3 days the earth was covered with smoke from the battle, and neither could see his enemy. The Spanish general said, "I cannot see Bantagan or the fleet anywhere, so let us go claim the princess." But the Sultan said, "We must wait until the smoke rises to make sure Bantagan is gone." When the smoke rose, the ships of Bantagan were apparently unarmed, and the Sultan said, "Bantagan has surely won, for his fleet is uninjured while yours is badly damaged. You have lost." "No," said the general, "we will fight it out on dry land." So they both landed their troops and their cannon, and a great fight took place, and soon the ground was covered with dead bodies. And the Sultan commanded them to stop, as the women and children in the city were being killed by the cannonballs. And the general said, "If you give your daughter to Bantagan, we shall fight forever, or until we die." Then the Sultan sent for Bantagan and said, "We must deceive the Spaniard in order to get him to go away. Let us tell him that neither of you will marry my daughter, and then after he is gone, we shall have the wedding." Bantagan agreed to this, and word was sent to the Spaniards that the fighting must cease, since many women and children were being killed. So it was agreed between the Spaniard and Bantagan that neither of them should marry the princess, and then they both sailed away to their homes. Bantagan soon returned, however, and married the princess, and on the way back to his home they found his son and took him away with them. For about a week the Spanish general sailed towards his home. Then he too turned to go back, planning to take the princess by force. When he found that she had already been carried away by Bantagan, his wrath knew no bounds. He destroyed the Sultan, his city, and all its people, and then he sailed away to prepare a great expedition, with which he should utterly destroy Bantagan and his country as well. One morning Bantagan looked out and saw the mouth of the Rio Grande, the enormous fleet of the Spaniards, whose numbers were so great that in no direction could the horizon be seen. His heart sank within him, for he knew he and his country were doomed. Though he could not hope to win in a fight against such numbers, he called his head men together and said, "My brothers, the Christian dogs have come to destroy the land. We cannot successfully oppose them, but in defense of the fatherland, we can die." So, the great warship was again prepared, and all the soldiers of Islam embarked, and then, with Bantagan standing at the bow, they sailed forth to meet their fate. In the fight The fighting was fast and furious, but soon the great warship of Bantigan filled with water, until at last it sank, drawing with it hundreds of Spanish ships. And then a strange thing happened. At the very spot where Bantigan's warship sank, there arose from the sea a great island, which you can see today, not far from the mouth of Rio Grande. It is covered with bongo palms, and deep within its mountains live Bantigan and his warriors. A Moro sailboat passes this island, is always scanned by Bantigan's watchers, and if it contains women such as he admires, they are snatched from their seats and carried deep into the heart of the mountains. For this reason, Moro women fear even to sail near the island of Bongos. Really? When it said scanned, I thought it meant if they found, like, a Spaniard or a Christian, they were, like, snatched up, but he snatches women? Okay. When the wife of Bantigan saw that her husband was no more, and that his warship had been destroyed, she gathered together the remaining warriors and set forth herself to avenge him. In a few hours her ship also sunk, and in the place where it sank, there arose the mountain of Timaco. On this thickly wooded island there are found white monkeys, the servants of the princess, who still lives in the centre of the mountain. On a quiet day high up in the mountain side, one can hear the chanting and singing of the wanting girls of the wife of Bantigan. Of the waiting girls. Just some harmless women snatching, yeah. Wild. Cool new terraforming tips. Sink boats. Yeah. Sink boats are very determined people. And you get an island. Da 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 da! We're flying through this. Absolutely flying. Christianized tribes! So now it's at a point where we're talking about how the Christians had a big influence on things. Because of course they did. Colonization and all that jazz. We are 76% of the way through now. I reckon we might even finish this stream. Potentially. If not, we only have one more stream of this. So, a lot of people for the next book have voted for the demonology book. So, yeah, we might be reading about demons later. That'll be fun. But for now, Christianized tribes. Introduction. When the Spaniards discovered the Philippines in the 16th century, they found the tribes along the coast of the different islands already somewhat influenced by trade with China, Siam, and the islands to the south. Under Spanish rule, the coast inhabitants, with the exception of the Moro, soon became converts to Christianity and adopted the dress of their conquerors. Though they retained their several dialects and many of their former customs, then no longer being at war with one another, they made great advances in civilization, while the hill tribes have remained isolated, retaining their old customs and beliefs. The tales of the Christianized tribes include a great mixture of old ideas and foreign influences obtained through contact with the outside world. Fascinating. I didn't know the Philippines was such a melting pot of cultures. I know some places are because of colonization, and Britain is kind of the same, because before the British Empire, we were also a bit of a melting pot because of getting invaded left, right, and centre. So it's interesting to see some other countries kind of coming up in a similar way. Or at least like a lot of stuff being influenced by all the people who invade. I get it. It's interesting, it's fun. The monkey and the turtle. A monkey, looking very sad and dejected, was walking along the bank of the river one day when he met a turtle. "How are you?" asked the turtle, noting that he looked sad. The monkey replied, "Oh, my friend, I am very hungry. The squash of Mr. Farmer were all taken by the other monkeys, and now I'm about to die from want of food." What other country could create jellybees? I don't know. "Do not be discouraged," said the turtle. "Take a bolo and follow me, and we will steal some banana plants." So they walked along together until they found some nice plants, which they dug up, and then they looked for a place to set them. Finally, the monkey climbed a tree and planted his in it, but the turtle could not climb. He dug a hole in the ground and set his there. When their work was finished, they went away, planning what they should do with their crop. The monkey says, "When my tree bears fruit, I shall sell it and have a great deal of money." And the turtle said, "When my tree bears fruit, I shall sell it and buy 3 vases of cloth to wear in place of this cracked shell." A few weeks later, they went back to their place to see their plants and found that the monkey was dead, for its roots had no soil in the tree, but that of the turtle was tall and bearing fruit. "I will climb to the top so that we can get the fruit," said the monkey, and he sprang up the tree, leaving the poor turtle on the ground alone. "Please give me some to eat," called the turtle, but the monkey only threw him a green one and ate all the ripe ones himself. Greedy monkey. When he had eaten all the good bananas, the monkey stretched his arms around the tree and went to sleep. The turtle, seeing this, was very angry and considered how he might punish the thief. Having decided on a scheme, he gathered some sharp bamboo, which he stuck all around the tree, and exclaimed, "Crocodile! A crocodile is coming!" Anya. The monkey was so startled at the cry that he fell upon the sharp bamboo and was killed. That's what you get, monkey. Then the turtle cut the dead monkey into pieces, put salt on it, and dried him in the sun. The turtle is crafty and feckin' ruthless. The next day he went to the mountains and sold his meat to the other monkeys, who gladly gave him squash in return. As he was leaving them, he called back, "Lazy fellows, you are now eating your own body. You are now eating your own body." The turtles do win a lot. Never fuck with a turtle. Then the monkeys ran and caught him and carried them to their home. "Let us take a hatchet," said one old monkey, "and cut him into very small pieces." But the turtle laughed and said, "That is just what I like. I have been stuck with a hatchet many times. Do you not see the black scars on my shell?" Then one of the other monkeys said, "Let's throw him in the water." At this, the turtle cried, and "You're a turtle." I believe tortoise is what she means, because turtles can swim. Turtles live in water. A turtle lives in water. A tortoise lives on land. A turtle's not a tortoise. It's not hard to understand. Turtle. At this the tortoise, cried and begged them to spare his life, but they paid no heed to his pleadings and threw him into the water. He sank to the bottom, but very soon came up with a lobster. The monkeys were greatly surprised at this, and begged him to tell them how to catch lobsters. I tied one end of a string around my waist, said the turtle, to the others. To the other end of the string I tied a stone, so that I would sink. The monkeys immediately tied strings around themselves, as the turtle said, and when all was ready, they plunged into the water and never came up again. Good Lord. And to this day, monkeys do not like to eat meat, because they remember the ancient story of that one turtle that fucked with them. Of that one turtle that talked his way into killing many monkeys. Good Lord. These monkeys are idiots, no wonder we evolved from them. Yeah, sounds about right, doesn't it? The poor fisherman and his wife. Many, many years ago, a poor fisherman and his wife lived with their 3 sons in a village by the sea. One day the old man set his snare in the water not far from his house, and at night, when he went to look at it, he found that he had caught a great white fish. This startled the old man very much, for he had never seen a fish like this before, and it occurred to him that it was the priest of the town. The priest is a fish. As you do. He ran to his wife as fast as he could and cried, "My wife, I have caught the priest!" "What?" cried the woman, terrified at the sight of her frightened husband. "I have caught the priest!" said the old man again. They hurried together to the river where the snare was set, and when the old woman saw the fish, she cried, "Oh, it's not the priest, but the governor!" "No, it is the priest," insisted the old man, and they went home trembling with fear. Oh my! That night neither of them was able to sleep, for they thought of the terrible thing that had happened, and wondering what they should do now. Now the day was a great holiday in the town. At 4 o'clock in the morning cannons were fired, and bells rang loudly. The old man and woman, hearing all the noise, and not knowing the reason for it, thought that their crime had been discovered, and the people were searching for them to punish them. So they set out as fast as they could to hide in the woods. On and on they went, stopping only to rest, so as to enable them to resume their flight. The next morning they reached the woods near Pillar, where there also was a great holiday, and the sexton was ringing the bells to call the people to mass. As soon as the old man and woman heard the bells, they thought the people there had been notified of their escape, and that they too were trying to catch them, so they turned and started home again. As they reached their house, the 3 sons came in with their one horse and tied it to the trunk of the canary tree. Presently the bells began to ring, for it was 12 o'clock at noon. Not thinking what time of day it was, the old man and old woman ran out of doors in terror, and seeing the horse, jumped on its back with the intention of riding to the next town before anyone could catch them. When they had mounted, they began to whip the horse. In their haste, they had forgotten to untie the rope, which was around the trunk of the canary tree. As the horse pulled at the rope, fruit fell from the tree upon the old man and old woman. Believing they were shot, they were so frightened that they died. That was wonderful. Oh my god, it's my biology teacher. Something about a guilty conscience. A cavalcade of goofiness. Correct. Starts with I'd like a banana, fellow monkey. To my cunning has resulted in an entire species vegetarianism. Yes. Which was a wonderful escalation, I'm not gonna lie. It was really high. And they were a bit too old to be that really high, and it caused some heart attacks. The Presidente, who had horns. Once there was a Presidente who was very unjust to his people. And I feel like this could be relevant. And one day he became so angry that he wished he had horns so that he might frighten them. No sooner had he made this rash wish that horns began to grow on his head. He sent for a barber who came to his house to cut his hair, and as he worked, the Presidente asked, "Not relatable at all, yeah. What do you see on my head?" "I see nothing," answered the barber, for although he could see the horns plainly, he was afraid to say so. Ah, this is the Emperor's new clothes, I see. Soon, however, the Presidente put up his hands and felt the horns. And then, when he inquired again, the barber told him he had 2 horns. "If you tell anyone what you have seen, you shall be hanged," said the Presidente, as the barber started away, and he was greatly frightened. The Emperor's new horns. The horny new Emperor. I mean, wait, what? When he reached home, the barber did not intend to tell anyone, for he was afraid. But as he thought of his secret more and more, the desire to tell someone became so strong that he knew he could not keep it. Finally, he went to the field and dug a hole under some bamboo. When the hole was large enough, he crawled in and whispered that the Presidente had horns. Then he climbed out, filled the hole, and went home. That's one way to get rid of it. I personally am happier with the whole, like write it on a note and then burn it. That always feels good. By and by, some people came along the road on their way to the market. As they passed the bamboo, they stopped in amazement, for surely a voice came from the trees, and it said the Presidente had horns. These people hastened to the market and told what they had heard, and the people there went to the bamboo to listen to the strange voice. They informed others, and soon the news had spread all over the town. The councilmen were told, and they, too, went to the bamboo. When they had heard the voice, they ran to the house of the Presidente, but his wife said that he was ill and they could not see him. Yeah, well, they said these stories are very much a mix of cultures after, like, the Spaniards and, a lot of other people have invaded, so it's a big mix, so you probably have heard stories like this before. By this time, the horns had grown until they were 1 foot in length, and the Presidente was so ashamed that he bade his wife tell people that he could not talk. She told this to the councilmen when they came the following day, but they replied that they must see him, for they had heard that he had horns, and if this were true, he had no right to govern the people. She refused to let them in, so they broke down the door. They saw the horns on the head of the Presidente, and killed him, for they said he was no better than an animal. Oof. He sounded like he deserved it. But that is a bad reason to kill. Happy ending. Yay. Sleepy, sleepy, sleep. Next, the story of a monkey. I wonder if this monkey will survive. Place your bets. Is the monkey gonna live or is the monkey gonna die? One day, when a monkey was climbing a tree in the forest in which he lived, he ran a thorn into his tail. Try as he would, he could not get it out. So he went to a barber in the town and said, "Friend barber, I have a thorn at the end of my tail. Pull it out and I will pay you." The barber tried to pull out the thorn with his razor, but in doing so he cut off the end of the tail. The monkey was very angry and cried, "Barber! Barber, give me back my tail or give me your razor." The barber could not put back the end of the monkey's tail, so he gave him his razor. On the way home, the monkey met an old woman who was cutting wood for fuel, and he said to her, "Grandma, Grandma, that is very hard. Use this razor, and then it will cut easily." The old woman was very pleased with the offer, and began to cut with the razor, but before she had used it long, it broke, and the monkey cried, "Grandmother, Grandmother, you have broken my razor. You must get a new one for me, or else give me all the firewood." The old woman could not get a new razor, so she gave him the firewood. The monkey took to the woods and was going back to town to sell it when he saw a woman sitting beside the road making cakes. "Grandmother, Grandmother," he said, "your wood is most gone. Take this of mine and bake more cakes." The woman took the wood and thanked him for his kindness. But when the last stick was burned, the monkey cried out, "Grandmother, Grandmother, you have burned up all my wood. Now you must give me all your cakes to pay for it." The woman could not cut more dry wood at once, so she gave him all the cakes. The monkey took the cakes and started for the town, but on the way he met a dog which bit him so that he died, and the dog ate all the cakes. I'm sorry, I read a bit further sometimes than I'm reading out loud, and I just had to pause that he just died. After all that bartering, he got all... I suppose this is where the saying comes from. You can't have your cake and eat it. He had all the cakes, but he didn't get to eat them. I got $20. That monkey doesn't make it. $20 to Boris. It made it most of the way through the story, but not to the end. Poor monkey. It's better on the bad rending. Any cake percentage. The white squash. In a queer little bamboo house in front of a big garden lived a man and his wife all alone. They had always been kind and good to everyone, but still they were not happy, because the child for which they longed had never come to them. Each day for many years they had prayed for a son or a daughter, but their prayers had been unanswered. Now that they were growing old, they believed that they must always live alone. In their garden near their house, this couple grew a fine white squash, and as the vines bore year around, they had never been in need of food. One day, however, they discovered that no new squash had formed to take the place of those they had picked, and for the first time in many seasons they had no vegetables. Each day they examined the vines, and though the big yellow flowers continued to bloom and fade, no squash grew on the stems. Finally, one morning, after a long wait, the woman cried out with delight, for she had discovered a little green squash. After examining it, they decided to let it ripen, and they might have the seeds to plant. They eagerly watched it grow, and it became a beautiful white vegetable. But by the time it was large enough for food, they were so hungry they decided to eat it. They brought a large knife and picked it, but scarcely had they started to open it when a voice cried out from within, "Please be careful that you do not hurt me." The man and woman stopped their work, for they had thought that a spirit must have spoken to them. But when the voice again called and begged them to open the squash, they carefully opened it, and there inside was a nice baby boy. He could already stand alone and could talk, and the man and his wife were overjoyed. Presently the woman went to the spring for a jar of water, and when she had brought it, she spread a mat on the floor and began to bathe the baby. As the drops of water fell off his body, they were immediately changed to gold, so that when the bath was finished, gold pieces covered the mat. The couple had been so delighted to have the baby that it had seemed as if there was nothing more to wish for. But now that the gold had come to them, they were happier than ever. The next morning the woman gave the baby another bath, and again the water turned to gold. They now had enough money to build a large house. The third morning she brought water for his bath, but he grew very sad and flew away. At the same time all the gold disappeared also, and the man and his wife were left poor and alone. But they were so happy to have a kid, and then they got a little bit greedy, I guess, with the money, but they were going to use the money to help the baby, and then... What? I guess no magic baby for you. If you bathe your baby too many times, they'll turn into birds and fly away. I mean, parenting, I guess. Just like when you have a real kid. Yeah. Just don't bathe your babies too much. They turn to birds and fly away. I won't find out one day. I won't. Sounds like a lot of hassle, honestly. Time for another creation story. When the world first began, there was no land, but only the sea, spelling mistakes, and the sky, and between them was a kite. One day the bird, which had nowhere to light, grew tired of flying about. So she stirred up the sea until it threw its waters against the sky. The sky, in order to restrain the sea, showered upon it many islands until it could no longer rise, but back and forth. Then the sky ordered the kite to light on one of the islands to build her nest, and to leave the sea and the sky in peace. Now, at this time, the land breeze and the sky breeze were married, and they had a child which was a bamboo. One day, when this bamboo was floating about on the water, it struck the feet of the kite, which was on the beach. The bird, angry that anything should strike it, pecked at the bamboo, and out of one section came a man, from the other a woman. The earthquake called on all birds and fish to see what should be done with these two, and it was decided that they should marry. Many children were born to the couple, and from them came all different races of people. After a while, the parents grew very tired of having so many idle and useless children about. And they wish to be rid of them. Mood. But they knew no place to send them. Time went on, and the children became so numerous that the parents enjoyed no peace. One day, in desperation, the father seized a stick and began beating them on all sides. This so frightened the children that they fled in different directions, seeking hidden rooms in the house. Some concealed themselves in the walls, some ran outside, while others hid in the fireplace, and several fled to the sea. Now it happens that those who went into the hidden rooms of the house later became the chiefs of the islands, and those who concealed themselves in the walls became slaves. Those who ran outside were free men. Those who hid in the fireplace became the word I won't say, while those who fled to the sea were gone many years, and when their children came back, they were the white people. Again, fun creation myths that take a lot of things into account. Catholic households. We can get one more in. Ooh, the next one's kind of big, actually. Adventures of Juan! I look forward to the Adventures of Juan. The next one's kind of big, so we might not be able to fit it in. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming! Thank you, everyone in chat. Thank you, everyone in look. Thank you, everyone who watches the VOD. I will probably be back tomorrow. I'm not sure when. I don't know if it's going to be an afternoon or an evening stream. That's tomorrow me's problem to decide. Today me just didn't want to think about it, because future planning is for future me, and current me doesn't want it. Until then, thank you so much everyone for coming. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you everyone who looked. Thank you anyone who watches the VOD. I highly appreciate you coming, no matter which way you decide to enjoy my content. If you have not already, I would also highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you have not on Twitch, if you give the channel a cheeky follow, that would be lovely. If you would like to support me in other ways, you could do so via YouTube membership and get emotes, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books. If you would like to, you can do it with the Patreon, where you get short stories, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books. No, wait, you don't get free books with membership. That was merch discounts, not free books. Sorry, I'm reading things wrong. There is the Kofi, where if you like the emotes that are being spammed, you can commission me to draw some for you. And last but not least, there's the merch store, where you can get ebooks, first edition copies of books that I've written, notebook, pillow, stickers, good stuff. www.brandywresmith.co.uk. Okay. But that is all I have for you today. I'll see you guys later. Tomorrow at some point, most likely. Probably. I don't know what for. I said I'd start a new thing in a new month, but game dev was doing kind of well, so I don't know if I want to do some more game dev. Choices are hard, bro. I don't know what to stream, but that's tomorrow me's problem. Today me's problem is saying goodbye and hoping you guys have a lovely day. I'll see you tomorrow. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brandyware Smith, Land of Forbidden Library. Goodbye.